Get in, nerds. We are playing Burden of Command. So, we are here past the Siegfried line, and it's time to aid our men. We took a bunch of unnecessary casualties over here, unfortunately, but that simply is what it is. I'm going to do the same thing I did last time and bring in Repo Depot fellas, and we'll guide them for just to save a little bit on prestige, because I got a lot of loyalty and not a lot of prestige to play with. And do I have any other casualties? I do. I have one. We'll do the same. And any combat fatigue doesn't appear to be, except, or I mean, I've got plenty of combat fatigue, but not that much stress. This squad's obviously taking a lot of combat fatigue. I'm going to let them be for now. My combat fatigue is pretty low. Thompson's is a little bit all over the place. But there's not much war left. I've only got 26 prestige to play around with, so I think now that it's the spring, we'll continue. I wanna keep this prestige saved so that I can make sure that I'm not putting myself in a really bad spot. Spend a lot of loyalty to improve trust. I don't think I'm gonna do that. I've never done that. It's never been worth it. All right, even though I'm sitting on a huge pile of loyalty, but you know, that's it's a resource I've got to keep managing if I want to keep this platoon running. So, or this company running. So that's what we're gonna do. Send these guys for R&R. I think I'm gonna do it actually. God, it costs 10 prestige. That hurts real bad. I'm gonna do it. I've been doing it and it's been useful, so keep that stress low. Alright, let's continue our journey. War is cruelty and you can't refine it. Sherman. That's William Tecumseh Sherman of the Union Army during the Civil War. Augsburg. I actually don't know where Augsburg is. Presumably the Rhineland. All right, 29 April, Germany. So that was March. Copy down that date for my notes.
I thought they must be very short of men when they put us sailors into battle dress, lugged the assault boats on the trucks and sent us across Belgium by road. They talk about silent service. I'd never been sick at sea, but I was sick as a dog on the road.
March 25th, 1945, Frankenthal, near the Rhine River.
You must suffer me to go my own dark way. That's from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I didn't understand it until I thought about going home.
Sunlight sparkles upon a distant stretch of river, a silver ribbon 1,000 yards across. Tomorrow the 7th Infantry Regiment and Nickel Company will cross the Rhine. You won't be the first. The 9th Armored Division seized a bridge up at Remagen a couple weeks back. Patton snuck a chunk of Third Army across not too long ago. Last night the Brits crossed too. Yeah, that bridge was a big deal. Germans tried to explode it and couldn't. Wasted a lot of ordnance afterward when trying to bring it down with artillery and planes and whatnot. The Germans have contested each crossing. Given how many medical tents shift in the freshening breeze, the astringent tang of disinfectant practically roiling from beneath the rough canvas, Colonel Heinches obviously doesn't believe this time will be any different. The city of Frankenthal has been badly worked over. Blown-out buildings merged with rubbled houses where the Germans contested the advance. Only the roads are clear of rubble, and only to allow the passage of an endless procession of big tank transporter semi-trailers rumbling down each lane with Navy landing craft on their backs. They're a long way from the sea, Lieutenant Grant remarks as he steps up beside you, idly booting a charred cinder from a storefront back onto the rubble. He gestures toward the rest of the convoy. But maybe we don't have to go swimming after all. Maybe. That'd be a nice change of pace. Say nothing, don't jinx it. That'd be a nice change of pace. Another invasion. Practically hear their bells. Huh. Something wrong with that image. We got a we got a clipping hill over here. Even Germany's code's falling apart. Another invasion. Can practically hear their bells, Morris remarks as he watches the vehicles draw near. The cigarette that burns between his lips is an especially foul one. That's our 5th, or is it 6th? Tell me someone's keeping count. Focus on the crossing, skip ahead, +1 prestige, or listen to the men ponder the question. I'm going to do the second one. I always do the scenes. The veterans collectively burn off a carton of acrid cigarettes as they put their heads together as to what counts as an invasion. That foul blue smoke merges with the tank exhaust as they banter. Morocco counts, so does Sicily. Italy might, because Nickel Company came ashore in landing craft. Anzio certainly does, which means southern France does too. But if rivers are included, well, the Cottonbalers would have afforded a hell of a lot of those. And that's not even counting the rainy season in France. Someone will figure it out, Crosley says and gives a shrug. The trucks slow, their much-abused brakes wailing until they stop. Soldiers spill out and fiddle with the dragon wagon semi-trailers. The chains holding the inland navy boats come off one by one. The figure leading the detail is a familiar sight. The former regimental S3 before he was moved up to division, Major Rawson. Captain, Major Rawson calls out. Shove off at 1900 and get these boats to the concealed locations you were briefed on. Anything changed, sir? Then we wait for the bombardment. Boats, bombardment crossing. Is there time to inspect the boats? Yes, sir. Boats, bombardment crossing. Positioning starts at 1900, Major Rawson tells you without a pause. Bombardment at midnight. Men to the boats at 0100, then boats to the river at 0230. God willing, a swift crossing afterward. With that, he heads back toward the boats, no doubt to oversee their deployment. The engineers will really have their work cut out for them getting all these hulls into position. 26th March, 1945. Midnight. I don't know how to say this. 0000 hours. The stillness of the cold, clear night shatters into the sudden crash of American artillery. A wave of shellfire slams into the eastern bank of the Rhine, fireballs lighting up the darkness like a dozen little sunrises. When the initial time on target is finished, the main force of the assembled guns opens up in an endless rolling thunder. At 0100, you assemble the men alongside their designated assault craft. Under the light of a waxing moon, they sniff the bracing scent of cordite that wafts over the burbling river, and watch the show from the little rise just beyond the riverbank. Replacements stare slack-jawed with awe. There are whispers that nothing could live through that. Your veterans are more realistic, writing last letters home, scribbling hurriedly in the flashes of exploding shellfire. With steady ticks, your wristwatch approaches the 0230 hour jump-off. Make certain our company is the first in the water. High chance of casualties. Possible trust loss. Prestige +3. Go on the designated tick. Even chance of casualties. Find a reason to delay deployment. Low chance of casualties. Possible trust bonus. Prestige loss. I'm going to go on the designated tick. You give the order and Nickel Company pushes their most recent burden to the water's edge. To your left and right, other companies do the same. A dull whump rises behind you as a flash of an explosion peels back the night. The familiar crack of German 88s thunders overhead. The Germans are hitting the deployment area. The naval coxswain is the first man to jump into the boat. Trust +5. Your men pile into the boats and push into the river. Lucky, the veteran tells your replacement, but then we always have been. The crossing is a brief one compared to the other invasions. The bow crunches against the riverbank. The familiar coxswain backs the engine off before the boat can reach itself too far. Green tracers arc far overhead as the Germans put a machine gun into play, trying to trick advancing units into thinking they don't need to take cover. The gunners on the landing craft slather the enemy position with fire and put an end to that nonsense. The ramp goes down. Your men spill out into the cold darkness. Another German machine gun, this one without tracer rounds, opens up on you as you scramble toward the steep bank. Beneath half a moon, the land is beyond as flat and pale as a Kansas pancake. Your replacements drop to the ground, but your veterans press on toward better cover as bullets nicker about in sharp, short bursts. Enemy mortars arc in and chew up the ground. Then a counter-barrage of American artillery swiftly silences that crap. To your left, amid 1st Battalion's area, lies the low-slung sprawl of Sandhofen. Amid the flashes of the falling artillery, you spy the silhouettes of soldiers hurrying into the outskirts of town. With darkness as an ally, Nickel Company grabs hold of its designated section of the bridgehead, tying in between Item and King companies. The regiment comes across, all 3 battalions, with a pair of dual-drive amphibious tanks that drive out of the river and clank onto the moonlit bank. Nickel Company pushes east through the darkness. Flashes of rifle fire sprouts ahead, a scatter shot that occasionally smacks into the ground nearby. A gout of cannon fire tears apart the night and reveals the ragged edge of the forest ahead, an anti-tank gun hidden within. A spray of accurate Kraut machine gun fire follows. The advance falters. Your men dig in. The Krauts stop wasting their ammo. Not long afterward, a runner races up. Message from Major Flynn, Captain, the private says as he gulps down breaths. Regiment wants a prisoner. Says we have to learn what the Germans have in the forest, and they need it before dawn so the 7th can continue to expand the perimeter. They're making certain this will not be like Anzio, but a prisoner. The men nearby trade worried glances as you dismiss the runner. Their worries are not just for themselves, but for their friends. Prowling around in the dark hunting for Germans, let alone trying to take one alive, is not a healthy habit. How badly do we need a prisoner? First Sergeant Grant asks quietly. There will be plenty of deserters before the night's over. Lead the patrol personally. Very low chance of captain injury or death. Test doctrine or cunning. Chance of casualties. Possible trust change. Possible prestige bonus. Send a patrol. Select an officer. Test doctrine or cunning. Chance of casualties. Possible prestige bonus. Establish an outpost to catch deserters. Small trust bonus. Very low chance of prestige bonus. The Germans will be waiting. Order a false patrol. Trust bonus. Test idealism or professionalism. Possible prestige loss. I'm going to lead the patrol personally. I got the most cunning of anyone here. You draw together your veterans for a patrol. There's only one officer you trust to lead them. Yourself. You order your picked men to darken up while you coordinate with the company. Only after everything is ready do you lead the patrol out into the darkness. There have to be Germans close by. It is just a question of taking one of them alive. Long minutes pass as you creep forward. Your patrol sees movement and slithers down into a shell hole to find a coal scuttle helmet silhouetted against the night sky, followed by hands raised. Kamerad? The soldier asks hopefully. And just like that, you have a willing prisoner. Prestige +1. A flare goes up. Pale light spills out across the plain. The crack of a German rifle follows. One of your men screams and clutches his arm. As the flare dies, an MG-45 opens up. You've been made. You have no choice but to order a retreat back to friendly lines. Trust -15. It is what it is. At last, Nickel Company can sleep. At dawn, the battalion advances. As expected, the Germans pull back. Before long, pontoon bridges span the river in half a dozen places, disgorging trucks and tanks and self-propelled guns onto the German side of the river. When the sun is well up, Nickel Company moves out into open country. There's not a hint of the enemy, not even trenches or foxholes. It is the Champagne campaign all over again, this time with more fuel to keep things running. I wouldn't go that far, it's still Germany. Later that day, a familiar figure hops off the back of a supply truck and saunters your way. You'd know her anywhere. Miss Magrina, I should have known. Wave to her, wait patiently. I'm going to say more words. Miss Magrina, I should have known. You should have, Captain, she replies, and then turns toward Grant with a rare joy in her eyes. Hello again, Jack. I see you survived. Yeah, Grant replies and finally glances away from her. Wasn't easy. You'll be wanting an interview? Possible change of trust, prestige, and combat fatigue. Optional scene. I'm afraid I don't have time for an interview. Risk nothing, end scene. I'm going to do the first one. You know, Lieutenant Murphy loves hearing himself talk. Captain Murphy loves hearing himself talk. As before, she unwraps a layer of protective wax paper from a worn notebook. Her fingers find the bookmark, and she flips the pages open to reveal a few ink-stained lines on the left and an empty expanse on the right. We haven't spoken since Anzio, she says, and poises her pen over the page. Would you summarize this last year? It's been a long war. We've come so far. Yesterday seems so far away. Ah. Come so far. The 7th has fought from the shores of Africa to the gates of Germany, Miss Magrina notes. A military feat if there ever was one. In fact, I heard somebody say that before this past year, no army had ever forced its way through the Vosges in winter. My men know the reason well. Mussolini is gone, Hitler will get the boot too. We're a long, long way from home. Mussolini is gone, Hitler will get the boot too. Total victory for total war. No screwing around this time with an armistice for 20 years. Then Tojo for dessert, Miss Magrina suggests, as she records your thoughts. After a moment, she adds something new. A clean sweep and a new tomorrow. We stand ready to plunge into Germany. The men just want a hot shower and a dinner to match. We'll be occupying, not liberating. The men just want a hot shower and a dinner to match. They might get that, Miss Magrina notes. The Germans have a lot of nice hotels, and for that matter, homes. After all, the rules are different when dealing with Germans instead of the French. Tell me, what was the fight on the Siegfried Line like? I've seen it and I've crossed it, but not when the Germans were around. We came, we observed, we crossed. The men could tell you better. They poured a lot of concrete back there. I'm going to do the third one. They did, Miss Magrina says. They didn't build roads or schools. No, they just built a graveyard. But that depressing thought aside, what do you see happening in the next few days? Or are you headed east of the Rhine? I can't say. I don't really know. We'll be coming in low under their radar. We're going backstage. I have to say we're going backstage. You're going to see how the sausage gets made, Miss Magrina considers, or rather, how the war was maintained. Nearby, a truck's engine turns over. First Sergeant Grant looks your way. Convoy preparing to move out, Captain. Always too soon. The Army does like its schedules. Wait patiently, I'll be the last aboard. I'm going to do the middle one. The Army does like its schedules. Officers make them, sergeants see to them, Miss Magrina remarks. We probably won't make it into the print this time either. The censors aren't nearly as tight-fisted now that things are drawing to a close, but your sentiments will sit better after the war. Farewell, Captain. Then she leans over to Grant and says something for his ears alone. He breaks into a little chuckle afterward and fondly watches her walk away. What'd she say? God. Ugh. Obviously, I should wait, but this is Lieutenant Murphy, who loves the sound of his own voice. What'd she say? Something witty, Grant notes. Something from me. Shall we get the company moving, Captain? Trust -5, combat fatigue -5. Your men load up onto their trucks, and off you go into Germany. Next day, 27th March, 1945, Germany. The little town doesn't look like much. From the edge of the woods, you note a clump of white walls and red tile roofs around a little stone church. Paved roads stretch out from the center towards muddy fields that surround it. The map calls the place Lorsch. No, sorry, that's French. The map calls the place Lorsch, firmly inside Germany's borders, but it sure as hell won't be after today. Your men spill out of the trucks that have carried you forward. The Germans are retreating so fast that even the Truscott Trot can't keep up with them. Scouts are stragglers, First Sergeant Grant says as he points toward a handful of figures in field gray that flee through the empty streets. Attack the town, low chance of heavy casualties, possible trust loss. Send in a patrol, even chance of light casualties, possible trust loss. Artillery barrage, then smoke screen, chance of civilian casualties, possible combat fatigue. The Army way is to artillery barrage the town and then smoke screen. We've been doing this to towns all through France and Italy. So close to the end of the war. I can afford a trust loss if it happens. Let's send in a patrol. You send in a patrol. They enter the little town. All is quiet. An MG-42 opens up deep inside the town. Mauser fire echoes down the streets. Someone shouts for a medic. But your patrol recovers quickly. They push on, silencing resistance with rifle fire and hand grenades. When the rest of Nickel Company moves in, they find your stricken man still lying in the street. He survives. The Germans don't. 1 casualty, -2 trust. Alright, that wasn't so bad. When it's time to see the wounded off, you find Lieutenant Dearborn standing before an old, ruined triple archway. He stares at the remaining crafted stones as if sheer will could get them to move. Dearborn, let's get going, skip the scene, or inquire about his interest here. Dearborn's dress change. You know I'm going to inquire. I don't skip scenes. This place is Carolingian, I think, judging by the shape of the arches, he says fondly. Charlemagne's heirs. 1,000 years ago, they occupied nearly all of modern France and half of both Germany and Italy as well. They call themselves Carolingian? What fascinates you about this? A millennia? What fascinates you about this? Lineage and distinction. The works of men are brief, but some things stand the test of time. Others are so easily destroyed. A whistle from down the street tells you that the loading is done. The next town awaits. Dearborn casts a sidelong glance at the newly created ruin. Not so different from the older one, except for the fresh rubble around it. He hunches his shoulders, pulls a cigarette from his breast pocket, and heads toward the truck with you. Combat fatigue plus 10 for Dearborn. Next day, 28 March. The smoky ruins of Lorch disappears in the rear view mirrors of your trucks. The next day, you brush aside more German resistance and arrive outside another village. The map says it's called Winkel. Not a German is to be seen. If true, that means your men may get to have a roof over their heads instead of staring up in gray clouds that promise to drizzle down tonight. Attack the town. This is the same choice as before. I'm going to send in a patrol again. You send in a patrol. They enter the outskirts of the little town. A few minutes later, white sheets spill out from a number of windows in the town. With the smoldering town cleared, orders come in to move on instead of dig in. Your weary men clamber aboard trucks and keep moving. Next day, the towns pass by in rapid succession. Rebach, both Steinbuck and Steinbach, Zell, Momont, and Kimbach. Nickel Company never sleeps under the same roof twice. 2 days later, 30 March. You breach the outskirts of Laudenbach just as King Company begins their attack. As Nickel Company deploys to give them additional support, a trio of men approach your command post. Each wears the red cross of a combat medic, 1 American and 2 German. Interesting. Captain, the American medic calls out. We've got a wounded man in the middle of the street, and the Germans have got a machine gun covering him. We'd like to try a rescue. What's your name? What's with the Germans right here? All 3 of you want to try a rescue? No rescue, it isn't worth the risk to my men. Of course we'll help. What's your name? PFC Carey, Captain, the American medic replies. Out of Montana, if it makes a difference. The German medics check their gear, being especially gentle with a bag of blood plasma. What's with the Germans right here? These are Gefreiters Pfeffer and Becker, PFC Carey explains. The Germans both nod at the mention of their names. They got captured at Michelstadt and wanted to continue to help the wounded. To be honest, Captain, they've been a godsend. A German medic captured at Ochtrup, 3rd April 1945. Image courtesy of the Imperial War Museum. Interesting. Gefreiter Becker mutters something about bleeding to Pfeffer and glances at his watch. The condition of the dying man can clearly only get worse. All 3 of you want to try a rescue? Yes, Captain, PFC Carey says. We're hoping the Germans won't fire on their own. Gefreiter Pfeffer shifts impatiently while Becker glances down toward the town. Greasy black smoke is rising from the cluster of buildings. Of course we'll help. Thank you, Captain, PFC Carey says. We're doing good work today. A glance around the corner reveals the tactical situation. A figure in olive drab lies in his back in the middle of the street. He's down but still breathing, though given the pool of blood he's lying in, you're not sure how much longer it'll last. Long enough for an ambush. If we wait, then the medics can't help. Alright, I've seen enough. If we wait, then the medics can't help. Quick action is all that matters. Of course, the enemy knows that. The Germans have the street locked down. An MG-42 is ensconced in a storefront on the far side of the road. There's more than enough cover to hide a Panzerfaust team or 2. Bullet holes riddle the shops to each side, probably from previous rescue attempts. Call for smoke. Even chance to rescue the soldier. Low chance of light casualties. Try to get a tank over there. High chance to rescue the soldier. Low chance of heavy casualties. Mount an attack. High chance to rescue the soldier. High chance of light casualties. Or send the German medics as suggested. Unknown chance to rescue the soldier. call for smoke. You call for smoke over the artillery net. The rounds rumble in, smashing into the street. White smoke billows out, blinding the enemy machine gun. The 3 medics dart into the street. The enemy machine gun fires blindly as the trio scoops the wounded man and carries him to cover, but they're too late. They set him down only long enough to close his eyes. It takes up the rest of the day to clear the town. 100 Germans are sent to the prisoner war cages. Your casualties are more than you wanted to see. The trucks come around the next morning. Your remaining men pile in and settle down for the trip to the next town and the next fight. 1 month later, 27th April 1945, near Augsburg, Germany. Grimy pages dance in the wind like industrial snowflakes, mingling with the dark smoke that rises from the freshly made shell holes. Fallen Luftwaffe personnel in blue-gray uniforms litter the ground amid sundered tents and boxes. Nickel Company soldiers sweep through the enemy airfield, combat boots crunching against the loose gravel. It had snowed last night, but there isn't a hint of mud on the ground, not on this warm spring day. Camouflage hangars lie in ruins while tents sit tucked under knots of trees, their canvas bulging with electronics gear. Most of the anti-aircraft guns also lie abandoned, though one of the smaller 20mm mounts has been dragged away toward the nearby road. Pretty quiet on the western front.
Kannst du sie sehen? Amis?
The anxious sound of ringing bells draws your attention toward one particular pile of equipment. Corporal Sobieski answers it, then holds up a black Bakelite case. Captain, he calls out, waving a familiar receiver vigorously. The telephone here is still connected. Maybe we call Augsburg? A radio call to regiment puts you in touch with Colonel Heinches. You can almost see his grin as you relate the fact of the open line and the possibilities it offers. Tell them to pack it in before they get hurt, Colonel Heinches orders. Augsburg is the last bastion before Munich, and the sooner we roll into the birthplace of the Nazis, the better. Colonel Heinches signs off. Sparks looks expectantly to you. Tell Augsburg to surrender or face annihilation. Ask if they need some slightly used artillery shells. I'd rather level their city than lose another man. Okay, I can't. This is the thing I would love to say, but we're gonna do the first one. Not because I don't like being sarcastic, but because this is a communication with the enemy, and we've got to be serious about it. Tell Augsburg to surrender or face annihilation. Sparks places the call. He sounds rather amiable, mixing German with Polish and English in turn. When he hangs up, he gives you a shrug. If the Germans are smart, they'll listen. Augsburg isn't just a town, it's a city. Intel says there's nearly 200,000 people packed into it. Worse, it hasn't been bombed much, most recently back in '44 by the Brits. They went for industrial facilities, apparently, which means the city had plenty of time to recover. Any urban fight is vicious. The fact that Major Flynn has sent you intel indicating that a couple thousand SS soldiers are in the area doesn't help matters. Unless those jackboots are reduced to throwing rocks, things will get bloody. Next day, April 28th, 0400 hours. Under the cover of darkness, the Cottonbalers deploy in an arc around the city of Augsburg. Squads, bazookas, mortars, and machine guns manned by grizzled veterans who've been at war for 3 years and fresh-faced replacements who just shipped in. Sherman tanks and Jackson tank destroyers clatter in the distance, waiting for the call to come forward. Thunder. The artillery batteries fire so many ranging shots that it might as well be a full-scale barrage. You watch as shell bursts turn the night into a perpetual flickering gloom. Division wants the city and quickly. Nearby, the forward observers test their radios, ready to contact tactical air support. Everyone is waiting to pummel Augsburg into rubble. This is where Martin Luther presented his confession. One of your replacements says to Sergeant Washington as the company artificer works to clear a jammed gun. Yeah, well, don't get too attached to the place, Sergeant Washington replies, never shifting his attention from the task. Look at this good photo. Technical Sergeant William E. Thomas and Private First Class Joseph Jackson, part of the 969th Artillery Battalion, prepare special Easter eggs. Photo taken 10th March, 1945. Wonderful. These two guys are comedians, and I'm here for it. Nearby, the rest of the members of 1st Platoon wait, watch, and listen. Say a few things for posterity, recite a bit of doctrine for the fight ahead. Okay, say a few things for posterity, prestige +3. Recite a bit of doctrine for the fight ahead, prestige +1, reduce negative events. Or inspire them with a speech, trust +3. I'm going to go for the 1 prestige and reduce negative events, because negative events are bad. We talk about the basics of urban combat. The veterans don't need it, but the greenhorns do. Every little bit helps. The mission, secure the city of Augsburg. The men suffer no more than light casualties. Alright, so... I hate tigers. Wow, this one's going to be really bad. I can already tell it's going to be really, really bad. We got 2 bridges leading into the town. Okay, hold on. Let's take a look at the victory conditions. Yeah, straight 1, 2, 3, 4 setup. We need 4 for the major victory. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 objectives. There is basically no cover. And there's a tiger tank here. Could be really bad. Likelihood of it being really bad? High. Said all of our squads are concealed. We have mortars, but no bazookas, and no extra support. Sucks. Well, it is what it is. We will get stuck in next episode. For now, I have had fun. I hope you all have had fun. And I will see you on the other side.